What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my F1 22 My Team career mode. We are coming off of our second points finish of the season in the Miami Grand Prix, and we are feeling on top of the world as we set our activities for the week leading up to the Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona. We are trying to once again carry some momentum forward into this Grand Prix, trying to continue to build off of our recent success and not fall back onto old habits, bad mistakes, unforced errors, that sort of thing. So as we set our activity timeline for the week, we are trying to stay focused and trying to bring everything we can to Barcelona. We'll move over and check on our R&D. We actually have a lot of R&D points sitting around, but that's because we have a lot of upgrades potentially coming in this week as we get our facilities upgrade to pass. We'll take care of some of these weekly things. We have a couple of things that go well and a couple things that do not go well. We actually get one of our R&D points to finish up and get a new part for the car for this week. So we'll go ahead and go back in and hopefully get some of this R&D points that are burning a hole in our pocket, and we will get some new things unlocked for the car as our gearbox finishes up. We get a general wear upgrade from the supplier, which has actually been greatly appreciated. Our parts have kind of been taking an absolute beating so far this season. We really need to work on our general wear, to say the least. But we'll go ahead and we'll take a look and see what we have available to us. We have 2,300 R&D points, so we pretty much can afford whatever we want, but we're trying to maximize what we can get here. Our improved energy store cells is actually 51% off, so that's definitely on the mind. Aerodynamics though might be more important, especially with the way our car currently sits. It's not very competitive in a straight line, so really hammering in some of these aerodynamics is definitely going to be very important, as well as we look to try and move up the grid. But taking a 51% deal and not doing it just doesn't sit right with me. That'll be ready in a few weeks, so we will get that go ahead and going, and we'll head back up to this R&D and we will take a look and see what we have available to us in aerodynamics as well. Like I said, we have a lot of R&D, so we'll go ahead and get those wing mirrors moving up and see what else we have. We still have 1,300 points, so we still have plenty of space, and that front nose does need some work, so we'll go ahead and lock that in as well. With 555 left, there's not a whole lot we can do, but we'll take a look and see if there's anything else we can add to the plate. It's not looking particularly likely, but doing your due diligence is always worth it in the end. We'll head back over to our aerodynamics. We have more stuff on sale, but unfortunately our facility has reached its max, so we will kind of go back and just see. Holding on to R&D points this early in the season really isn't worth it. So improved materials for our ICE, we will take that. We are left with 5 solid R&D points as our R&D list is now filled up to the max. We are really trying to make a mark moving up. As you can see, we've actually dropped to second from last on the R&D chart, and you can see that we're actually only above Williams. And we've also seen from the past that Williams can sometimes be giving us the most trouble on track as well. So we really need to step up our game and really make a big push in our efforts to catch up. But we'll head to our Pirelli hot lap and try and get some free money as well as some driver acclaim. I believe we'll go with the Autocross here just to really take advantage. We'll go ahead and jump forward just because Autocross is what it is, and these Pirelli hot laps can kind of take a bit of time just to look at. So we will get our gold medal here as we finish our last 10 gates, and we will look to head into the Spanish Grand Prix with some momentum, as well as $100,000 more in our bank account as we cross the finish line of our Pirelli hot lap, and we will start to prepare for qualifying. We have not necessarily qualified the best in so far this season, so something that we're really looking forward to continuing to work on is our qualifying pace, and I think R&D will definitely come a long way with that. as we definitely will continue to try and up our pace. I also mentioned it in the last episode, but I think we're going to be moving out of the short version of qualifying into the full version of qualifying. That probably won't come for another few episodes, but mainly just because I pre-recorded all the way up to episode 8. So after that, we'll be moving into the full term qualifying. So hopefully that will also provide us an opportunity to, you know, make some surprise moves in qualifying and get some more surprising results out of qualifying than just doing our one-shot qualifying or the short qualifying. So here we are hopping on board with a flying lap in qualifying, and this, I believe, will actually end up being our best lap of the day, as we will hope to slide up the grid as we currently sit in P17. But as we've seen in episodes past, just because you're currently sitting pretty good, you always run the risk of sliding down the order very, very quickly. So we are hoping to take advantage of this nice flowing circuit, which doesn't necessarily provide the most excitement from years past, or so I'm told, but it does provide us a good opportunity to continue working on our fluidity, trying to stay nice and smooth in our moves, as well as our throttle and braking points, just continuing to improve every single time we get out on the track. We'll take this nice long sweeping right-hander before what I can only describe as one of the weirdest little chicanes I think I've ever seen in any racing game. Just doesn't seem to really flow very well, and these sausage curves are an absolute killer. As you can see right there, we actually slide out on that outside sausage curve, and that will do it for us, as we were on a great lap. But unfortunately, as you can see here in a moment, we actually slide out on our last lap of the race, taking a bit of damage, and that damage will actually take us all the way to 3, 2, and 1 seconds remaining in qualifying. And unfortunately, that is it. Qualifying is done. We ruin our last shot at setting a pretty decent lap, thanks to that exit of a chicane, which now is on my blood rivals list. So we will finish up in P21, only beating Nicholas Latifi in the Williams, as well. And Enzo Fittipaldi, holding his own, finishing up in P18, wouldn't have gotten out of Q1, but it's nice to see that one of us was able to put together a complete lap and really kind of start to showcase, our car may not be able to do a lot, but it can do just enough.
Max Verstappen take victory on his first ever appearance with the Red Bull team in 2016, after that dramatic coming together of Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg. Will we see more moments for the scrapbook here today? It's a sellout crowd of 140,000 here today as we await lights out for the 730-metre sprint down into Turn 1. This is a 2.9-mile racetrack. Overtaking is challenging through the 16 corners, but there's still a lot of high-speed excitement to be found, including the flat-out Turn 3 and the terrifying blind right of Turn 9. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. What a qualifying yesterday for George Russell. He'll start today's race from pole position. And a very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Verstappen, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, and Bottas, Fernando Alonso, Ricciardo, Ocon, and Guan Yu Zhou. Leclerc, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Magnussen, Mick Schumacher, and Norris. Albon, Tsunoda, Pierre Gasly, Enzo Fittipaldi, Vettel, Stroll, Latifi, and the rookie. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. And a warm welcome to Natalie Pinkham, who's beside me in the commentary box today. We should talk about Alfa Romeo. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within the team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do. And that has definitely contributed to the performance.
Let's get it. So if you saw there, as we line up for the formation lap, we actually decided, since we ended up qualifying in P21, to go ahead and utilize the new engine components penalty advantage, we'll call it, to just go ahead and get an entirely new set of engine and ICU power unit components going, just to have another set available to us, in which, you know, we're not really losing too many places. Obviously going from P21 to P22, as once again, as similar to what we did in Miami, we will look to take advantage of starting near the back of the grid. Hopefully will benefit us as the season moves forward, as other teams, you know, take those engine penalties later in the season. Hopefully we'll have gotten all of ours out of the way. We won't run into any potential engine penalty, grid penalties, or anything of the sort. So as we come down and finish up our formation lap to get lined up to start the Spanish Grand Prix, we are excited to try and make something happen, when actually it appears that both Aston Martins will end up starting behind us. So we lined up behind them. Very confusing. That perspective was confusing to me, and I apologize, but there are 5 red lights and they are out, and we are away in Barcelona as we take on the Spanish Grand Prix. The inside is absolutely covered, but we will not stop us from trying to send one up the inside, as Nicholas Latifi tries to cut us off, but we will say no thank you. We will go right around you, good sir, as we actually end up doing the same to Fittipaldi as we take him on the outside and move up into P19 a few corners in. We actually get a fantastic run on Gasly here down the inside, but we'd make a huge lunge in front of him. We actually managed to move up one more place, back up into P18, chasing Alex Albon and Sebastian Vettel. So we make a bit of a unexpected lunge to the inside, as we're a bit late on the brakes, a little unexpected, as we make a big lunge reactionary into the inside, and we are finally settling into P17 here behind Mick Schumacher and Alex Albon. The Schumacher should be able to leave the Williams in the dust, as that Haas is definitely a much better machine than this Williams. You can see it here. You know, Albon covers up the inside, and we will say thank you very much. We will take that outside line, thank you. We actually managed to take it fast enough to get back to the racing line. We'll leave him enough space on the outside if he wants to try it, but he will actually just fall back into line, and we have worked our way up 6 spots up into P16 in a fantastic opening lap of the Spanish Grand Prix. Now all we have to do is avoid these sausage curbs like we were unable to do in qualifying, and try not to fall back too much on the straights as we complete our first lap. And now we are chasing the Haas of Mick Schumacher and Yuki Tsunoda in front of us, as we are trying to leave Alex Albon and Sebastian Vettel behind. Tsunoda and Schumacher actually battle a bit, which allows us to kind of, you know, catch up just a little bit. We actually get a fantastic run through this first sector, and this first sector actually will eventually become probably the only real weapon we have in this race, as we make a peak towards the inside, but we probably wisely decide to back out to stay on the racing line and allow Tsunoda back through. And this corner I think will cause us some issues, because we always seem to be slightly late on the brakes here, as well as late on the gas to get a run up here towards this back straight. And we're just hoping to not lose too much time in the straights. As we learned previously, our car just cannot stand up to the performance of some of these other teams, as we are falling down the order of the R&D chart. But nonetheless, we are going to hopefully make up for it with some absolute daring moves, and probably sometimes some very ill-advised moves, as we try and stick to the rear bumper of Yuki Tsunoda here. Thankfully, this back chicane actually allows us to kind of hold firm with everyone else. Now, this exit does give us a lot of troubles here, and as we run up towards the main straight, so we're hoping that, you know, through that chicane, maybe eventually making some moves as well, to look at that as our primary attacking position, as well as the sector 1. But sector 2 just doesn't really provide much of the opportunity, as we will move forward here to lap 6. This is a very uneventful first few laps after things finally settle down from the opening. But there's been a nice little pack here, which for us is fantastic, because, you know, if things get too spread out, we really don't have the pace to really catch up to the pack. And so allowing everyone to kind of stay bundled up together really shows us that, you know, if one big mistake were to happen with someone in front, or someone was just get a little too out of line, that presents, you know, anywhere from 1 to 4 positions in front of us, as we actually take Yuki Tsunoda a bit on the inside. We try and make this move sit going into turn 1. He'll have the inside line going to second bend, but he probably wisely backs out, as we have shown in the past that we are unwilling to let go of a corner, as Mick Schumacher makes a huge mistake, locks up, and actually runs a bit wide as we are now on the bumper of the next Haas of Kevin Magnussen, and we are moving up the places as we take a bit of a line wide, trying to get a good exit of this corner, trying to get a good run on K-Mag, but that Haas just too much for us in our car at this point. But as of right now, we've moved up 8 positions in this race, which is an absolute blessing for us as we are hopefully finally seeing some good luck. We'll get some DRS from K-Mag and we'll try and see if we can send one up the inside, and we decide this is not the time, just a little too far away to make a good run down the inside of the Haas. But we are keeping up, which is exactly what we need. You know, DRS does a lot of wonders, as well as the slipstream. Can we take a look down the inside of the chicane? That's, like I said, this is going to be one of the few moments on the track where we can really look to make a move, as the AI really seems to slow down and take that chicane nice and slow. We find an opportunity to try and send one down the inside to hopefully get one through, and we do, as K-Mag once again is looking back at our rear bumper. Actually, as Schumacher overtakes his teammate, and Schumacher once again is behind us as we move forward. Once again, Schumacher's still behind, but now we are looking at the rear bumper of Zhou Guanyu. We are currently running in P13, and we are trying to continue to make our way through the field. Unfortunately, the sausage curves of Barcelona is absolutely taking its toll on our underbody, and as we take once again some underbody damage, which really I think will rear its ugly head sooner rather than later. And this is something that we're really going to see this season, is the inexperience of the driver, me, really taking those sausage curves a little too aggressively, as we actually get a good run here down the outside of Zhou Guanyu. He kind of hesitates, and we hesitate even more, and unfortunately we can't get the move done as we try and take a bit of an inside line to try and keep up the pace on the Alfa Romeo. But you know, the underbody damage I think is something that is easy to miss when looking at results. I think it's something that we've dealt with all season, and it's probably something we're going to see going forward into the next few rounds, foreshadowing, as trying to keep the underbody intact is really one of the more important things that you can do in this game. It would seem, because once that underbody starts taking more and more damage, you really start to feel the loss in performance, and our car already isn't good enough to make up for those losses. So unfortunately, it's something we're probably going to have to deal with until we can really dial in the driver's skill gap to hopefully kind of minimize what that looks like going forward. But as here we currently sit, we are about to begin lap 11, 1/3 of the way into the Spanish Grand Prix, and we actually are up into P10 as those who started on the soft tire make their first pit stops, and we are running in the points currently. Now granted, that's probably not going to last for long, as we currently have the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc just coming out of his pit stop onto the hards, and he will most certainly, once those tires warm up just a little bit, be coming past us fairly soon. As Zhou covers off the inside, we get a bit of a terrible move outside this. We take a big lunge up the inside and actually make the move stick as we move up into the back of the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, as Zhou Guanyu is kind of riding our outside line here. He refuses to concede the corner, but finally does as we move into this, you know, sweeping S back here onto this back straight. Now, unfortunately, that little battle will hopefully keep us within DRS of Carlos Sainz, and it will, which will definitely help in our battle with this Alfa Romeo. We take a bit of an inside line to cover off Zhou Guanyu, and we are currently running in P9, chasing a Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, and we are loving life as we are currently having visions of another points finish dancing in our eyes, as long as we don't make too many big mistakes. But you can see there in that graphic that our underbody is really taking a beating, and you know, only 1/3 of the way into the race, that's something that you really can't afford, along with any big mistakes. So that's definitely gonna be on our mind as we continue to chase Carlos Sainz in P8. Of course, we have not made our pit stop yet, so as much as we love the idea of continuing to run in the points, that is just not true, as we do need to make our pit stop. And as long as we don't make any huge mistakes in between now and then, we actually will be looking hopefully to come out in a decent position to make some good advancements post pit stop. I think as long as we don't take any damage as well to our front wing, we really should have a decent shot and running a good mid-pack race this beautiful day here in Barcelona, as the hard tires of Carlos Sainz seem to finally be awakening. He finally gets us out of DRS range. Now we are running in this sort of middle ground where Joe is behind us, also outside of DRS range, and we are outside of DRS of Sainz, and so we are kind of running a bit of a clean air bubble right now as we continue to push through. We will definitely be looking to pit soon, as currently, running our 13th lap. We definitely will be needing to be careful about these mediums, which are definitely running towards the end of their life, as we will finish up lap 12 and we will move on to lap 14 just a few laps later, as Charles Leclerc finally makes his way through, currently running in P9. We are running in P10 as we still have yet to pit, and we will definitely be looking to do so soon. Charles, thankfully, will give us a little help here, as he will allow us to get DRS down this back straight, continuing to, hold Zhou Guanyu at bay. Thankfully, he running almost 3 full seconds behind us, as he also, I believe, has yet to pit. So I think his tires are definitely starting to go, and our tires are absolutely starting to go, as we are doing everything we can to try and stay up with Charles Leclerc. And here we go, our first pit of the race we will take in, and thankfully no incidents to speak of. We currently running in P10, making our hopefully only pit stop of the day. Let's see how far we fall, as actually a few follow us into the pit. We're making our way in. We'll make our turn in, hopefully optimal. There it is. Hopefully it will go pretty smoothly, and we will come out somewhere around P14 to 16 ish by the looks of it, maybe coming out directly behind. Let's see. All right, there it is. We come out ahead of Albon, but 2.5 seconds to 3 seconds behind Daniel Ricciardo and Lando Norris of the McLarens. Mick Schumacher takes over Albon, and we are running in a bit of a huge bubble now as we move ahead to lap 15. We are running 5 seconds behind Ricciardo and almost 5 seconds ahead of Mick Schumacher. So unfortunately, we're not really close enough to make a huge run at those ahead of us, as a handful of people are actually pitting. It looks like Fittipaldi finally comes in for another pit stop, as well as Latifi, who looks like he's actually making his first pit stop of the race, and we will gain a few positions here up into P13. And thankfully we will come out behind Zhou Guanyu in here in P12, but he is on the cold hard tires, and we definitely need to be looking to get by him as soon as possible, because once those tires wake up, we want no part of the Alfa Romeo. We need to put as big a buffer on his outlap as possible, as we overtake him fairly easily as he's coming out of the pits. So thankfully we will get a bit of clean air here, as we now look to chase down that 7-second gap to Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren. Is going to be a tall task for us, but even here a P12 finish would definitely be a very positive one, and at this point I believe we're kind of hoping more for a safety car than anything else to give us any sort of shot at points. But as Fittipaldi just coming out of the pits, probably those cold hard tires gets the better of him, and unfortunately Fittipaldi is out of the Spanish Grand Prix. That's really unfortunate. He had a pretty decent qualifying and actually was running pretty okay to start the race. I'm unsure of where he kind of was when that happened, but really unlucky for Enzo there, as he once again just can't seem to make it happen and is out of the Spanish Grand Prix. I try and see if I can learn what happened, but unfortunately they kind of just give me a generic he's out. So we actually run a very boring race essentially the rest of the way, as we will move all the way ahead to lap 32, finishing up lap 32, heading to our final lap. We actually did manage to run all the way up to Danny Rick to just about a 1 second gap, to the point where we can actually see the McLaren ahead of us. Mick Schumacher almost over 9 full seconds behind us really isn't going to pose much of a threat. So at this point we are trying to chase down Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren, trying to make up that one more position. Lando Norris almost 12 full seconds ahead of him. We are definitely not fighting for points, but we are fighting for a P11 finish with the McLaren. And what a day this would be if we can make this one last move stick, as Max Verstappen crosses the finish line to win the Spanish Grand Prix. We get a little squirrely on the brakes there. These hard tires finally starting to go a little bit. We give Daniel Ricciardo a little bit of a bump. He'll cover out the inside. We hope he leaves a gap. Unfortunately, does not. We run again, just slightly late on the brakes and a little too late to react. And that will let Danny Rick get a bit of a run on us, as he's nursing that half a second lead as we come around, trying to take a peek around the outside, maybe trying to get a run on the inside. We go for it, but a little squirrely. He shuts the door. And as we come around to this last long sweeping curve, we hope to get a bit of a run down to the chicane like we did earlier in the race. We make the lunge, but unfortunately a little slow acceleration. We try and take him on the undercut, but he covers this off nicely and beautifully, and Daniel Ricciardo will come home to finish this race in P11. Again, neither of us fighting for points, but a nice little scrap after quite a boring race and very lonely race as we make the charge, and as we finish P12, which is, all things considered, a very successful result for us. You know, not taking damage like we did as we did before Miami, and really not setting ourselves up for failure. We finish with a solid P12 finish as Max Verstappen comes home to win. As it looks like George Russell in P3, and it's hard to tell. I see one Ferrari in the back, but I can't tell who comes home in second. Is it Carlos Sainz or the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc? Let's find out here as we move to the podium ceremony. But for us, you know, it is quite a shame that Fittipaldi ends up having to retire from the session. But at the same time, we come home in P12 and are absolutely thrilled with that. It does appear Charles Leclerc comes home to finish also on the podium in P2, minimizing the damage done by Max Verstappen in the World Drivers' Championship. And you know, we didn't make up any ground in the championship today, but I keep saying it, but you know, these little victories for a new team like us, finishing in P12, having a shot at P11, but Daniel Ricciardo just shutting the door a little too closely on us really holds us off just a bit more. But that will do it for us here at the Spanish Grand Prix. As we take a look at the final standings, we finish P12, moving up 10 full places in the grid all the way up to P12. We can see Daniel Ricciardo ahead of us, who actually lost 3 places, as Lando Norris closes out the points and gets 1 crucial point for McLaren on the weekend. But an absolutely fantastic weekend for us. Unfortunately, we'll continue to try and work on reliability for Fittipaldi as well as myself. But as we move forward, we'll take a look at our rivalry breakdown. We finally are making some decent progress on our rivalry with Pierre Gasly. We know we have a long way to go to actually win this, and it's looking less and less likely that we will. But at the same time, we will level up to level 7 acclaim, and we will get our team acclaim very, very close to level 8. Fittipaldi unfortunately unable to make much damage, and we will finish here and see you guys next week.